This is HFY Vanguard, where prophecy meets passion, and one human can change the fate of worlds. The legend begins now. The ancient temples of Alari shimmered like giants of forgotten stone beneath an amber sky. Their surfaces glowed faintly, inscriptions alive with bioluminescent veins that pulsed in rhythm with the planet's slow heartbeat. To the Alari, this place was sacred ground, the cradle of prophecy. To the human delegation, it was a mystery wrapped in myth and heat. Lieutenant Commander Nathan Felton cursed softly under his breath as he climbed the steep path to the expedition site. His boots sank slightly into the reddish dust, which caught the sunlight and turned every step into a golden spark. Sweat trickled down his temples, stinging the scar that ran across his right cheek, a souvenir from Europa's skies where plasma fire had once painted the void. He took a swig from his canister. The water was tepid, metallic, and tasted like survival. 3 weeks on this planet, and he still felt like an uninvited guest. The Alari, tall blue-skinned beings with silver-white hair and eyes like molten amber, had greeted humanity with courtesy, but not warmth. They watched from a distance, whispering in their fluid tongue, their gestures precise, elegant, and unreadable. Nathan didn't blame them. Humans had found Alari only 5 years ago, piercing through a dust storm that had hidden the planet for millennia. The locals had lived in isolation since before Earth learned to build cities. As Nathan approached the cluster of tents and holographic screens that made up the human research camp, a voice called out from behind a mound of excavation gear. Felton, perfect timing. It was Dr. Harrington, expedition leader and lifelong enthusiast of things that should have remained buried. His khaki uniform was already streaked with dust, his grin bright enough to outshine the twin suns. "The High Priestess has granted us an audience at the Central Temple tomorrow," Harrington announced, eyes gleaming. "First time they've ever let outsiders inside. Can you believe it?" Nathan gave a polite nod. "Can I sure? Do I want to not sure yet?" He wasn't here for discoveries. He was here because his fleet career had ended in flames and silence. After the Europa Incident Command had reassigned him officially for security liaison duties, unofficially to get him out of the cockpit. Babysitting scientists wasn't exactly what a fighter ace dreamed of, but orders were orders. He was still thinking about the endless bureaucracy that followed disaster when a voice like music broke through his thoughts. Commander Felton. He turned and the world seemed to still. Standing at the edge of the path was a woman unlike any he had seen. Her skin was deep indigo, dusted with a faint velvety shimmer that caught the sunlight. Long hair of silver white cascaded down her back like a stream of liquid light. The emerald green robe she wore clung to her form with deliberate grace, embroidered with threads that glowed faintly with bioluminescent runes. "I am Neria, daughter of High Priestess Kala," she said, her tone balanced between curiosity and command. "I have been assigned as your liaison for tomorrow's ceremony." Nathan straightened instinctively, trying to recall the diplomatic handbook he hadn't read. He extended his hand, a habit from Earth, then awkwardly lowered it when she didn't reciprocate. "Nathan Felton," he managed, looking forward to it. Her eyes, molten gold flecked with hints of orange fire, studied him like a puzzle. "You are the pilot who flew through the vortex storm," she said softly. "The one who delivered medicine to our southern continent." He shrugged. "Yeah, just doing my job. Our best navigators refuse to cross those storms. They say the sky there eats ships alive." Nathan smiled faintly. "Guess no one told me." "Perhaps," she said, tilting her head, "or perhaps you simply didn't believe it could not be done." Her words lingered longer than they should have. Then she turned, her silver hair glinting in the alien light. "The temple awaits you at dawn, Commander Felton. Rest well, you will need clarity of spirit." As she walked away, Nathan caught himself watching the smooth rhythm of her movements, precise, poised, almost hypnotic. Harrington chuckled behind him. "Careful, Commander. That's priesthood royalty. And from what I've heard, they can kill with a whisper." Nathan didn't reply. He just watched the alien woman disappear into the temple shadows, feeling a strange pull in his chest, something between intrigue and déjà vu. That night, sleep came slow. When it did, it brought visions. A ship of living metal, its surface breathing in rhythm with his heartbeat. Hands his pressed against its hull, light blooming beneath his skin, and a voice distant, genderless, whispering in a language older than memory. "Awaken, child of the stars. He woke before dawn, heart pounding. The morning air carried the metallic tang of ozone as the expedition formed up outside the central temple. The structure towered above them, a pyramid of stone and light, its carvings moving subtly as if the temple itself were alive. Neria awaited them at the entrance, her expression unreadable beneath the rising twin suns. "You stand before what we call the vessel of the ancestors," she said as they entered. "For 10,000 years, no outsider has seen it." They followed her through corridors lit by vines that glowed with blue-green luminescence. Every surface seemed to hum faintly, not with electricity, but with memory. When they reached the inner sanctum, the air changed. The chamber was circular, vast and silent, except for the echo of their breaths. At its center floated a teardrop-shaped craft of pure silver resting above a pool of light. Nathan's instincts, the pilot's instincts, ignited instantly. "That's not a statue," he thought. "That's a ship." Dr. Harrington was babbling excitedly about alloys and radiometric dating, but Nathan barely heard him. Something about the craft called to him. He stepped forward, ignoring the gasps of the Alari attendants. "Human," the voice of High Priestess Kala thundered across the chamber. Her presence was imposing, tall-crowned and golden filigree eyes like fire trapped in glass. "You should not approach the sacred vessel. Many have tried to wake it. All have failed." But Nathan's hand was already reaching out. When his fingers brushed the ship's surface, a wave of energy rippled outward. The metal came alive. Glowing veins raced across it, pulsing in perfect sync with his heartbeat. The floor trembled as the chamber filled with a low, resonant hum. The Alari gasped. Neria's eyes widened, her face a portrait of disbelief. "Impossible," she whispered. The hull split silently, revealing a doorway bathed in white-blue light. Nathan turned a grin spreading across his face. "Looks like it just needed a human touch." Before the stunned guards could react, Neria grabbed his wrist. Her fingers were cool against his skin, trembling with both fear and excitement. "Come with me," she hissed, "before my mother regains control." They darted down a narrow side passage, hidden behind a tapestry of woven light. The hallway descended sharply, the air growing cooler. The walls glimmered with faint constellations, as though the stars themselves had been carved into the stone. Nathan's pulse raced. "Where are we going?" "To the Hall of Prophecy," Neria replied. "There are things you must see, things no outsider has ever seen." When they reached the hidden chamber, the air felt thick with history. In its center rested a pedestal, and upon it an ancient book bound in what looked like metallic leather. Neria opened it reverently. The pages shimmered symbols, rearranging themselves into meaning. "It speaks of the Awakener," she said, voice trembling. "An outsider who would come when Alari faced its darkest hour. One whose blood carries the spark of the ancestors." Nathan's throat went dry. "And you think that's me?" She met his gaze not with faith, but with fear. "The vessel responded to your touch, Commander Felton. In 10 millennia, it has responded to no one." The hum of the awakened craft above seemed to echo her words, vibrating through the ground beneath them. Nathan didn't know whether to laugh or run. All he knew was that something vast had shifted in the world, in her eyes and in the pulse of the universe itself. And though he didn't yet understand it, destiny had already chosen him. The chamber beneath the temple was so silent that even their breathing seemed sacrilegious. Blue light seeped through the carved glyphs on the walls, forming constellations that pulsed like a living heartbeat. Nathan's eyes flicked between the glowing symbols, and Neria's face, her features softened by the otherworldly luminescence, yet her expression carried the weight of millennia. "This place has remained hidden since the age of sundering," she said, her voice a whisper of reverence. "Only the daughters of the High Priestess are permitted to enter." Nathan raised an eyebrow. "And you're breaking the rules for me." A flicker of a smile touched her lips. "For the one who awakened the vessel, there are no rules left to keep." She turned a page of the metallic tome and the air shimmered. The ancient letters rearranged themselves before their eyes, forming holographic patterns of light. As she read aloud, her voice resonated with something deeper, an energy that seemed to respond to her very breath. "When the skies darken again, when the parasite stirs from beneath our own blood, the awakener shall rise. Not of Alari, the forgotten kin. His blood will ignite the vessel, and his heart shall burn with the stars long dead." The words hung in the air like an invocation. Nathan felt his pulse quicken, though he didn't know why. Sounds like a lot of superstition, he said, forcing a grin that didn't reach his eyes. You don't believe in destiny, she asked quietly. I believe in thrust trajectory and luck, he replied, not prophecy. Her amber eyes lingered on him. Then why did the ship wake for you when 10,000 years of faith could not? He had no answer. For a moment they stood in silence, the hum of the temple vibrating faintly underfoot. Then a tremor shook the floor, subtle but unmistakable. Dust drifted from the ceiling, glowing in the blue light like falling stars. They've discovered the awakening, Neria whispered. The High Council will summon my mother. When she learns I brought you here. She didn't finish. Instead, she closed the book, her hand lingering on its surface as if saying farewell to a friend. We must go. They slipped back through the labyrinthine corridors. The light shifted from blue to gold as they ascended until the sanctum ahead glowed with the brilliance of a sunrise trapped in stone. When they emerged into the main chamber, the scene had transformed. The awakened vessel hovered slightly above its cradle, now humming softly. Dozens of Alari elders stood encircling it, their robes shimmering with ceremonial energy. In the center, High Priestess Kala stood like a monument of divine wrath. My daughter? Her voice echoed through the chamber, layered with power. You have violated sacred ground. Neria bowed low, her silver hair cascading forward. Forgive me, Mother, the prophecy. Silence, Kala's tone, cracked through the air like lightning. There is no prophecy, only the arrogance of those who would twist legend for their own desire. Nathan stepped forward before he could stop himself. Hold on. She was just... Every Alari in the chamber turned toward him. Their amber eyes burned in the golden light. You, Kala hissed. The outsider. The one who touched the sacred vessel. Her gaze pierced him, and for an instant he felt something cold crawl across his mind, a psychic weight pressing down like invisible fingers. He stumbled backward, dizzy before shaking it off. Lady, whatever this is, I didn't mean to. Silence, Huma. The room trembled as her voice deepened into something almost inhuman. The vessel behind her pulsed once as if reacting to her fury. Neria's voice was urgent now. Mother, please. He didn't know. The vessel responded to him. You saw it, perhaps. Enough. Kala's hand rose, glowing with golden energy. Instinct took over. Nathan lunged, grabbing Neria by the wrist and pulling her aside just as a beam of energy tore through the air where they had stood. The impact scorched the stone behind them, leaving a molten scar that hissed and cooled. Gasps echoed around the chamber. She tried to kill us, Nathan muttered. Not kill, Neria said, her voice shaking. Erase. Temple guards surged forward, their staffs humming with light. Nathan didn't hesitate. He pulled a sidearm, compact, low-yield standard human security issue and fired a single warning shot into the ceiling. The sharp crack of kinetic discharge shattered the sacred silence. Back off, he barked. The guards froze, not out of fear of the weapon, but at the audacity of it. Humans didn't raise arms inside the sanctum. Kala's voice turned cold, almost detached. Take them. The prophecy ends here. But before the guards could move, the vessel flared with light again, a cascade of blue radiance that blinded everyone. The sound that followed was not mechanical, but alive, like the universe exhaling. When the brilliance faded, the Alari stood stunned. The vessel hovered higher now, and lines of glowing script appeared along its hull. Neria stared at them, whispering translations under her breath. It's responding, not to command, but to connection. Her eyes found Nathan's. To you. I didn't do anything, he protested. That's exactly why it listens, she said softly. Before the guards recovered, Neria seized his hand again and sprinted toward the side passage. This time, Nathan didn't hesitate. They ran through the temple corridors, their footsteps echoing like war drums. Behind them, the High Priestess's voice reverberated with fury, and beneath it, something else. A resonance that didn't sound entirely like her own. They didn't stop until they burst into the open night. The twin moons hung above, casting ghostly light over the stone courtyards. Nathan's breath came in sharp bursts. You want to tell me what the hell that was? Neria leaned against a pillar, her chest rising and falling. The vessel's awakening triggered the energy locked beneath the temple. I think it has chosen. Chosen one. She turned toward him, eyes glowing faintly under the lunar light. You. Nathan laughed, but it came out hollow. You've got to be kidding. You are not just a pilot, she said, stepping closer. The prophecy calls you the Awakener, the one whose blood carries the forgotten spark. Her tone was half faith, half disbelief, but there was something else, too, curiosity and a flicker of fear. Nathan exhaled, rubbing his temple. Listen, I'm just a guy with bad luck and a decent aim. I don't know what your prophecies say, but I'm not. He stopped when she reached out and touched his hand. The instant their skin met, light flared faintly between them, a pulse of shared energy, subtle but undeniable. Your people in mind, she said softly, may not be as different as we believe. He looked down at their joined hands. The glow faded, but the warmth remained. What happens now, he asked. Neria's gaze drifted toward the horizon where the twin moons mirrored each other in the black lake beyond the temple. Now, she said, we find out why the stars remember you. The next morning, the entire planet seemed to hum with unease. Word of the awakening had spread faster than light itself. The Alari High Council ordered the temple sealed, and guards patrolled the perimeter like an army preparing for war. Nathan stood at the edge of the camp, watching dawn creep across the alien sky. He had seen war zones quieter than this. The horizon bled gold and violet, painting his face in firelight. Footsteps approached behind him. He didn't have to turn to know it was her. They're calling you the Skyborn now, Neria said with a wry smile. Half the council wants to worship you. The other half wants to dissect you. Nathan snorted. Sounds about right. She stepped beside him, close enough that he could feel the warmth radiating from her skin. My mother will summon you soon, she said. But before that, there's something else you must see. He glanced at her, another secret chamber. Her expression turned serious. No, a memory not mine, but the temple's. When she touched his forehead with 2 fingers, the world around him dissolved into light. He saw flashes, visions like shards of glass reflecting ancient stars, ships of living metal soaring across nebula, cities rising, falling, burning, a war of fire and shadow. And at the center of it all, a figure human hand pressed to the same teardrop vessel, whispering words in a forgotten language. Then it was gone. Nathan staggered back, breathless. What the hell was that? The past, Neria whispered, and the reason my people have always feared yours. Her words echoed in the dawn wind, and for the first time Nathan felt and realized that destiny wasn't some abstract idea. It had a pulse, and it was beating through his veins. The day after the awakening, the air above Alari felt charged, like the entire planet was holding its breath. Word of what had happened in the temple had spread beyond the priesthood, leaking into the streets of crystalline cities and through the networks of scholars and soldiers alike. Everywhere, whispers carried the same forbidden words. The vessel has awoken, the outsider has come. Nathan Felton had no intention of becoming a legend. He was just trying not to get himself executed. The guards shadowed him everywhere now, blue-skinned sentinels with blank expressions and eyes that followed his every move. Dr. Harrington had been placed under what they called protective isolation, which Nathan suspected meant we don't trust your species. The only one still speaking to him freely was Neria. That evening, she found him alone in the gardens of the High Temple, where 2 moons mirrored themselves in a pool of water so still it looked like liquid glass. Strange plants swayed gently in the night air, petals glowing softly, breathing light into the shadows. You shouldn't be out here alone, Neria said, stepping through the archway. Nathan gave her a half smile. Technically, I'm not. I count 6 guards pretending to admire the flowers. She followed his gaze, then sighed. They fear you, Commander, not because of what you've done, but because of what you might do. Join the club, he muttered. I'm afraid of that too. For a long moment, neither spoke. The air between them hummed softly as if the world itself had leaned closer to listen. Finally, Nathan broke the silence. Back on Earth, I used to fly storms that tore ships apart. I thought I'd seen everything. Then I met a planet that talks, a ship that breathes, and a woman who reads destiny like a diary. Neria tilted her head slightly, amusement flickering in her golden eyes. You think this is destiny? I think this is trouble, he said, but you're hard to ignore. Her laughter was quiet, musical. You sound like the old explorers in your archives, men who sailed to new worlds for curiosity and found gods instead. I'm not looking for gods, Nathan said softly. I'm looking for answers. Then perhaps, she said, taking a slow step closer, you should ask the right question. The moonlight glinted against her silver hair as she met his gaze. Why does the vessel recognize you? He hesitated, then shrugged. No idea. Maybe my ancestors just got lucky. I do not believe in luck, she whispered. There was no judgment in her voice, only curiosity and something else that made Nathan's heart skip. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was alive, charged, as though the air between them had turned into some invisible field of gravity. She looked up at him, then eyes bright like molten gold, and said almost teasing, "Perhaps your species was born from arrogance, or perhaps it was born from something the rest of us lost." "What's that?" "Defiance." Nathan smiled. "Yeah, that sounds about right." The faintest smile curved her lips. "Among my people, defiance is seen as impurity. Among yours, it seems to be virtue." "Maybe that's why we survive," Nathan said quietly. "We're too stubborn to die." Her laughter came again, light and real this time. And for the first time since he'd set foot on this planet, he felt the tension inside him loosen. But then her expression changed, softer now, distant, as though a thought had slipped through her guard. "Do you know what my people believe about connection?" she asked. "They say when two souls align, when their energies intertwine, the universe itself bends to listen." He raised an eyebrow. "Sounds poetic." "It is sacred." The garden fell quiet again. Fireflies of bioluminescent light drifted lazily between the trees, their glow painting moving constellations across her skin. Nathan found himself studying her, how the light slid over the smooth curves of her face, how her eyes reflected starlight. She wasn't just alien, she was art sculpted by a different universe. He didn't realize he'd moved closer until their reflections blurred together in the water. "Neri," he said softly, whatever's happening, it's dangerous." Her gaze didn't waver. Danger is what makes the heart remember it's alive. He wanted to argue. He wanted to step back. But when her hand reached up and brushed his cheek, the argument dissolved into silence. The contact was electric, literally. A pulse of light rippled through the air where her fingers touched him, dancing along his skin like static made of starlight. She gasped softly, eyes wide. "Do you feel that?" "Yeah," he said. "Hard to miss." The light faded, leaving only warmth and the awareness that they were standing far too close. Then before thought could catch up, her lips met his. The kiss was not gentle. It was a spark igniting oxygen, raw and sudden and alive. For an instant, Nathan felt everything, the hum of the temple, far below the pulse of the planet itself, the stars overhead whispering in languages he didn't understand. When they broke apart, both were breathless. Neria's voice trembled slightly. "Among my people, that is." "Not done." Nathan smirked. "You started it." She laughed, then quietly, nervously, and the sound made the night feel warmer. But her expression shifted again, thoughtful now. "There is an ancient ritual," she said softly, "a merging of spirits. We call it the binding. It is forbidden between different bloodlines. Yet when the vessel awoke, the same energy flowed through you and me." He frowned. "Are you saying we're psychically linked?" "Not yet," she said, "but close." Then her tone hardened, urgency creeping in. "The High Priestess, my mother, she will not forgive this. You touched what was never meant for outsiders. If she learns about tonight, she already knows." The voice froze them both. From the shadows beyond the garden, High Priestess Kala stepped forward, her robes trailing light like fire. Her face was carved from fury, but her eyes were wrong. They glowed too brightly, pulsing faintly with something inside them. Mother Neria began, "Please." Silence. The word vibrated through the air. "You have broken the covenant. You have defiled the sacred line with this creature." Nathan stepped in front of Neria. "Hey, hold on. You dare address me?" Kayla's voice twisted, layered with a hiss beneath the tone, a sound not human, not Alari. And in that moment, Nathan saw it, a faint ripple beneath the skin of her throat, like something moving just under the surface. "What the hell is that?" Neria's breath caught. No, it can't be." "You awakened," the vessel Kala said, voice deepening. "And with it, you awakened us." Her eyes flashed and a shockwave of psychic force rippled outward. Nathan staggered but stayed upright, shielding Neria behind him. "Mother, please fight it," Neria cried. "Your mother is gone," came the reply. "The Vex have waited within her for centuries dormant, until your arrogance opened the seal." Then she raised her hand and the air screamed. Nathan grabbed Neria and dove aside as energy slammed into the stone where they'd stood, scorching it black. They ran through corridors, down staircases, through hidden arches. The temple itself seemed to react, its glowing glyphs shifting from calm blue to warning red. Behind them, Kayla's voice echoed like thunder. You cannot run from Destiny Awakener. You are the key that will free my kind. They burst into an ancient passage beneath the temple, a place filled with cold air and the echo of forgotten prayers. Nathan's pulse hammered in his ears. Okay, he panted. Let's assume diplomacy's off the table. Neria stopped pressing her hand against a carved wall. Her voice shook. We need to go deeper. There's a network of tunnels from before the Great Cataclysm. They lead to the catacombs. My people used them to hide. The last time the Vex came. Nathan blinked. Wait, last time? She nodded grimly. 10,000 years ago. We thought they were gone forever. He exhaled sharply. Guess they didn't get the memo. As the hidden door slid open, she turned to face him. Her eyes shimmered with fear, but also determination. Commander Felton, she said softly, the Vex are not just parasites. They are a hive mind, ancient, telepathic, and hungry. They infect the will itself. Once they control the host, they can spread across entire worlds. Nathan's expression hardened. Then we stop them. You speak as though it were simple. It's not. But I've fought things that wanted me dead before. This time, at least, I've got company. For the first time since the chaos began, Neria smiled again. You humans truly do not understand fear, do you? He met her gaze. We understand it, we just don't let it win. Their eyes locked for a heartbeat longer than necessary. And in that silence, something settled between them, not the raw heat of desire this time, but the quiet certainty of trust. The binding had begun, whether they realized it or not. The corridors beneath the high temple of Alari breathed like the lungs of a dying god. Each wall pulsed faintly with light veins of bioluminescent energy threading through the stone as if the planet itself were alive and restless. Nathan Felton followed Neria down the spiraling stairway, his pulse racing in rhythm with the vibrations around them. The deeper they went, the older the air became heavy with dust and something else, something electric, like the aftertaste of a storm. These tunnels were carved during the first Vex invasion. Neria whispered, her voice a faint echo in the dark. My ancestors used them as sanctuaries, but none have entered them in generations. Yeah, Nathan muttered, running a hand along the glowing wall. Feels like the kind of place that doesn't want visitors. Behind them, distant tremors shook the stone. Somewhere above the temple was screaming, stone grinding air, humming a chorus of energy being reborn. She's awake, Neria said quietly. The Vex inside my mother. They've reconnected to the hive. Nathan's jaw tightened. Then we moved fast. They reached a vast chamber supported by towering pillars etched with constellations. In the center, a pool of liquid light shimmered like quicksilver. The reflections on its surface flickered between faces, some human, some Alari, some too alien to name. What is this? Nathan asked. A memory well, Neria said. Our history stored in the planet's neural lattice. Every high priestess could access it through meditation. Then maybe it can tell us how to kill these things. Before she could respond, a low hum rippled through the chamber. The surface of the pool trembled, and an image rose, a phantom projection of High Priestess Kala, her body illuminated by an unnatural red glow. Her voice echoed everywhere at once. You cannot stop what has begun. The seal was broken when the human touched the vessel. The Vex rise again. Nathan raised his weapon instinctively, though he knew it was useless against a hologram. You're not talking to us, are you? Neria's expression turned grim. No, she's transmitting to the entire temple network. Above them, the sound of footsteps echoed, multiple synchronized, inhumanly precise. Temple guards, their eyes glowing faint crimson, emerged from the shadows. They're infected, Nathan said. Neria lifted her hand, whispering a word in the ancient Alari tongue. A surge of blue energy flared from her palm, slamming into the nearest guard and sending him sprawling. But more came, faces, expressionless movements too perfect. Run. They sprinted through a side passage, Nathan firing short bursts of plasma behind them. The corridor twisted and narrowed until it opened into another hall, a tomb lined with crystalline coffins. Inside each lay a figure of blue crystallized light, preserved like frozen memories. Who are they? Nathan gasped. The first generation of priestesses, Neria replied. They sealed themselves here to maintain the barrier that kept the Vex imprisoned. Nathan stared at the silent ranks. Guess the barrier didn't hold. Another tremor. This one stronger. A crack split the ceiling, raining dust. Through the fracture, a red glow seeped like blood. They pressed onward. The path sloped downward and the air grew thick, humid, almost metallic. Neria stumbled slightly, pressing a hand to her head. "What's wrong?" Nathan asked, catching her. "They're speaking," she said through clenched teeth. "The Vex inside the hive. They can feel me. They're trying to find us." Suddenly, her knees buckled. She collapsed against him, trembling. A faint ripple moved beneath the skin of her neck, the same crawling movement Nathan had seen in her mother. "No, no, not you," he whispered. Her eyes snapped open, glowing red, her voice distorted. "Join us, Nathan Felton. Your body would make an excellent host." A black tendril of energy slid from her mouth, writhing through the air like living tar. It darted toward him. Nathan reacted on instinct, dodging aside, but the tendril grazed his arm. Pain flared, searing white-hot for an instant, then vanished. The darkness recoiled, hissing. Neria screamed a sound that tore through the air like glass shattering, and the parasite burst from her mouth, a squirming insectoid creature dripping with dark fluid. Before it could move again, Nathan stomped down with his boot, crushing it. The chamber filled with the smell of ozone and decay. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Neria knelt on the ground, trembling, her eyes returning to their normal golden hue. It tried to take me," she whispered. "It couldn't," Nathan said, helping her up. "Whatever these things are, they can't infect humans." She looked at him, realization dawning. "That's why the vessel responded to you. Your biology, it's resistant. The ancestors must have engineered it." Engineer. The legends say our ancestors fled from another world carrying the Vex within them. To survive, they changed themselves, created vessels immune to possession. But over millennia, that purity faded in us. Only fragments remained in our bloodlines. Nathan stared at his hand, the faint burn where the parasite had touched him already fading. "And humans still have it." "You carry what we lost," she said softly. "The true blood of the ancestors." The revelation hung between them like a weapon newly forged. Above them, another explosion rocked the tunnels. Cracks raced along the ceiling, glowing red. "We need to move," Nathan said. They ran again through the collapsing passageways, ducking falling debris, dodging energy bolts fired by corrupted guards. Each blast illuminated the carvings on the walls, ancient murals depicting a war between light and shadow humans and Vex locked in eternal struggle. Neria pointed ahead. "There, the sanctum where the vessel rests, it connects to the catacombs." They burst through a narrow archway and found themselves in a cavernous hall. At its center floated the awakened ship, glowing faint blue as if waiting. The air vibrated around it, alive with resonance. "It's calling to you," Neria said. "Then let's not keep it waiting." They approached the vessel. As Nathan touched its surface, symbols flared to life beneath his hand, racing across the hull in concentric circles. The doorway slid open with a sigh. The interior was alive, a fusion of organic curves and crystalline technology. Bioluminescent conduits pulsed softly, casting light across the cockpit that seemed to breathe with him. He stepped inside and sank into the pilot's seat. The moment his body touched it, the ship responded, panels unfolding, systems activating. It felt like an extension of his nerves, every circuit humming in time with his pulse. "It recognizes you," Neria said in awe, joining him inside. "Feels like it's been waiting." The displays flickered, shifting to a language Nathan didn't know yet, somehow understood. A holographic projection appeared before them, coordinates, diagrams, and a set of warnings. "It's a fail-safe," Neria translated. "If the Vex ever escape, the vessel contains a frequency weapon capable of disrupting their hive consciousness." Nathan frowned. "A weapon? How do we activate it?" "It requires the genetic key of the ancestors." He looked down at his hands. "That'd be me, then." The ship pulsed brighter, acknowledging his words. Neria placed her hand over his. "There's more. The weapon must be fired at the heart of the Vex network, the Queen. She's buried beneath the central temple." Nathan's mouth set in a line. "Then that's where we go." But before he could move, the ship's console flared red. A new transmission filled the cockpit, a holographic projection of Kala, her features half consumed by black veins of corruption. "You cannot stop destiny," she hissed. "The Vex hive rises even now. Your vessel will serve as the cradle of our rebirth." Her image flickered, replaced by a view of the temple above. Vex-possessed guards dragged human scientists into the main hall, their faces pale with terror. "Surrender the vessel," Kala said, "or watch your kind die one by one." The transmission cut. Nathan's fists clenched. We're running out of time. Neria's expression hardened. If she releases the queen, Alari will fall and Earth will follow. Then we end this, Nathan said, his voice low and steady. He placed his hand on the control sphere, and the ship answered with a rising hum. The floor vibrated, the walls glowing as the vessel rose from its cradle. What are you doing, Neria asked. Taking the fight to her. The ceiling above them cracked open as the ship punched upward through layers of rock and temple. Debris scattered like shrapnel as they burst into the open air, twin moons blazing overhead. Alarms echoed across the temple complex as the vessel hovered above the courtyard. Corrupted guards scattered below, firing energy bolts that fizzled harmlessly against the ship's shimmering barrier. Inside, Nathan grinned a reckless, feral grin he hadn't felt since his combat days. You wanted an awakener, he said. You got one. Neria smiled faintly beside him, her voice soft but fierce. Then awaken the stars, Commander. He angled the ship toward the central spire, the heart of Alari, where the queen awaited her rebirth, and dove. The vessel streaked through the night like a falling star, light trailing behind it, the air splitting open with thunder. Beneath them, the temple roared alive, ancient machinery awakening for war. And in that moment, as fire and light danced across the sky, Nathan felt and realized something extraordinary. He wasn't fighting for survival anymore. He was fighting for origin. For every human who ever looked at the stars and wondered where they came from. For the ancestors who fled across galaxies to escape the darkness. For the right to call themselves human and for the right to define what that meant. The temple shuddered as Nathan Felton's vessel erupted through its ceiling, trailing shards of stone and streaks of molten light. The shock wave rippled outward, flattening the courtyard's ornamental towers and scattering possessed guards like leaves in a storm. From the sky, the awakened ship gleamed like a living comet, blue and white fire crackling along its hull. Inside the cockpit, Nathan gripped the control sphere, feeling every motion like a pulse inside his own chest. The vessel wasn't just responding to his commands. It was anticipating them, merging thought and instinct into one seamless will. Beside him, Neria watched in awe. It's bonded completely, she whispered. You and the vessel are one. Then let's make some noise, Nathan said, angling the ship toward the central spire, the heart of the temple, and the source of the crimson energy radiating through the night. Below, the High Priestess's corrupted voice echoed through the ruins, layered with inhuman resonance. You cannot stop the awakening child of Earth. You carry the key that frees us. Red lightning erupted from the spire, arcing toward the vessel. Nathan rolled hard, the ship responding faster than thought. Energy beams slammed into the barrier field, rippling across the surface like raindrops on glass. The barriers holding Neria shouted over the hum. Good, Nathan replied, because we're going in. He dove straight through the storm. Energy flares streaked past the cockpit. The temple loomed ahead, its central chamber glowing like a wound in the planet's surface. They burst through the outer walls in a blaze of fire and stone. Inside the central chamber, spread before them, vast cathedral-like, carved from living crystal. At its center hung the heart of Alari, a colossal crystalline organ, pulsing with red light tendrils of energy, stretching into the surrounding architecture like veins. Neria gasped. The heart, it's not a relic, it's a host. Nathan's instincts screamed warning. You're saying that's... The queen, she finished. The realization hit them both as the heart shuddered, its glow deepening from red to black. From within the pulsing core, a silhouette emerged, a woman-shaped figure of translucent skin and shifting veins of crimson energy. You've come far, human, the figure said, voice reverberating like metal scraping against glass. Far enough to die before your purpose is complete. Nathan's jaw tightened. Not today. He slammed his palm against the control sphere. The ship's weapon systems came online with a rising hum that made the air vibrate. Targeting frequency loaded, Neria said, scanning the holographic display, but it must be fired directly into her central core. Then let's get her attention. He aimed. The vessel's energy cannons blazed to life, unleashing a beam of pure blue-white light that tore through the chamber, slamming into the heart. The queen screamed a psychic sound that stabbed through their skulls. Cracks spider-webbed across the crystal structure, releasing bursts of black smoke that coalesced into shadowy humanoid forms. Vex drones, Neria warned. The constructs swarmed upward, their bodies flickering like static. Nathan twisted the ship into evasive maneuvers, rolling between pillars and firing bursts of energy that shredded the drones mid-flight. Each kill sent ripples through the hive, but more poured from the walls. Too many, Nathan muttered. She's birthing them faster than we can kill them. We need to hit the core, Naria insisted. Nathan nodded grimly, then dove straight toward the Queen. The vessel skimmed just meters above the ground, the engines screaming as blue fire trailed behind. The heart loomed ahead, pulsing violently, and for an instant, Nathan could feel her inside his mind, curious, ancient, hungry. So much will the Queen whispered in his thoughts. So much resistance. How human. Funny, he shot back. I was about to say the same about you. He fired again. The main beam struck the core dead center. The heart exploded in a blinding flash. But when the light faded, she was still there. The crystalline shell cracked, and the Vex Queen stepped free, fully formed now, humanoid, yet monstrous. Her eyes were black holes rimmed in crimson fire, her translucent flesh crawling with energy patterns that moved like serpents beneath glass. You can destroy the cage, she hissed, but not the mind that built it. With a gesture, she unleashed a psychic wave that slammed into the vessel, hurling it backward. Systems flickered. Nathan's vision blurred. He tasted blood. Shields failing, Neria shouted. I noticed. The Queen raised her hands, drawing energy from the heart's remains. Tendrils of red lightning lashed out, snaring the ship, dragging it toward her like a predator reeling in prey. Your kind were our creation, the Queen said. Your defiance our gift. You exist because we allowed it. Nathan clenched his teeth, fighting the pull. Yeah, about that. He forced his hand onto the control sphere. The ship roared in response engines, overloading light, flooding the cockpit. You built us to be hosts. We turned out to be hunters. With a guttural growl, he slammed the throttle forward. The vessel broke free of the Queen's grasp and shot straight upward, punching through the ceiling of the chamber. They burst into the open sky again, the Queen's psychic scream trailing behind them. Lightning split the heavens as she emerged through the ruin, her body rising into the night, massive now wings of pure energy unfolding like the claws of a dying star. Neria stared in horror. She's ascending. If she escapes the atmosphere, she'll call the hive. Then we stop her here. The vessel soared higher, matching the Queen's ascent. The clouds boiled around them, thunder echoing through the alien sky. Below the temple was a ruin of molten crystal. Above, the Queen glowed like an angry sun. Nathan felt the ship's energy merging deeper with his mind. Every control, every system was part of him now. He could feel Naraya's heartbeat through the connections synchronized with his own. Naria, he said softly, if this doesn't work, it will. She cut him off, voice steady, because we're doing it together. He smiled faintly. You sound like a pilot already. She met his gaze. And you sound like a believer. The Queen unleashed another psychic blast. The sky cracked open. Nathan gritted his teeth, holding the vessel steady as lightning tore past. We need to disrupt her hive link, Neria said. The weapon's ready, but you'll have to get us close enough for the pulse to reach her. Then hold on. He pushed the ship into a steep dive, then looped upward in a corkscrew, dodging waves of crimson fire. The Queen's claws sliced through the air, missing them by meters. Nathan climbed above her, inverted the ship, and dove again straight at her heart. Now, Neria cried. He fired. The beam hit dead center. The Queen shrieked, the sound ripping across both mind and sky. Her form convulsed, fracturing as blue-white light seared through her veins. It's working, Neria shouted. But the Queen wasn't done. In a final act of defiance, she extended one hand, and space itself tore open behind her. A swirling rift of red and black, a portal into interdimensional chaos. She's opening a gate to the hive world. Neria gasped. Then we follow. Nathan, no. That's suicide. He locked eyes with her. If she gets through Earth's next, I'm not letting that happen. For a heartbeat, neither spoke. Then Neria's hand found his. Then I'm coming with you. He nodded once, together. The ship dove into the portal. Light ceased to make sense. Colors that had no names roared across infinity. Time twisted into loops of sound. The vessel screamed as reality bent around it, shields flickering under impossible pressure. Nathan could feel the Queen ahead of them, a black star tearing through the void, fleeing toward a distant light. She's heading for the hive, Neria shouted. Then we catch her. The vessel surged forward, moving faster than thought. Through the chaos, Nathan and Neria were no longer two beings. They were one consciousness, one rhythm. Every turn, every calculation, every shot came from instinct, shared across a bond deeper than flesh. The queen turned, her psychic voice filling the void. "You cannot destroy us. We are your origin." Nathan's reply was calm, deadly. "Maybe, but we're your end too." He fired the containment weapon. A sphere of pure energy erupted, expanding outward, trapping the queen in a field of light. She screamed a sound that tore through dimensions and collapsed into herself, her body folding into a glowing orb that shrank until it vanished into the ship's containment core. For a moment there was silence. Then alarms blared. The portal was collapsing. "The gateway's destabilizing," Neria shouted. "If we don't escape now, we'll be trapped forever." "Hang on." Nathan scanned the readouts through their psychic link. The vessel's AI, ancient and half alive, whispered data directly into his thoughts. Their one weak point in the dimensional fabric, the same breach they'd entered through. "We've got one shot," he said. "Then take it." The ship accelerated, engines screaming. Behind them, the portal imploded, dragging everything toward its collapsing heart. The queen's psychic presence clawed at Nathan's mind, desperate, furious, fading. "You think you've won, human? You understand nothing." Nathan smiled grimly. "Maybe not, but we'll learn." The vessel plunged through the breach, light tearing apart around them. For an instant, Nathan felt weightless, free-falling through eternity. Then they were out. The portal snapped shut behind them with a thunderous crack. The sky of Alari filled the cockpit window again, blue, golden, alive. The ship tumbled, stabilizers kicking in just before impact. They skimmed the surface of the temple lake, trailing fire and steam before settling gently on the ruined courtyard. Silence, then laughter. Neria leaned against him, shaking with adrenaline and relief. "You did it." He smiled weakly. "We did it." Through their link, he could feel her heart racing, her emotions, fear, relief, and something deeper. A shared warmth that transcended thought. "The binding," she whispered. "It's complete." Nathan nodded slowly. "Guess it takes a war to make a connection." Outside, dawn was breaking. Twin suns rose over the shattered temple, casting long rays of gold and blue across the world. The vessel hummed softly beneath them, alive, content. And deep within its core, sealed in eternal light, the Vex Queen screamed silently into the void. Nathan looked out at the horizon, the alien sky painted in fire and hope. "You know," he said quietly, "she was right about one thing." Neria turned to him. "What's that?" "Humans don't fight because we think we'll win." He glanced at her eyes, fierce with quiet defiance. "We fight because someone has to." The words hung between them like the last note of a symphony. Neria's smile was small but radiant. Then the universe chose well. The vessel's engines purred in agreement, light blooming once more along its hull. The war was over. But the legend of the Awakener, the human who reignited the stars, had only just begun. Morning broke over the shattered temple of Alari. Twin suns climbed the horizon, their golden light spilling across the ruins like a benediction. What had once been the cradle of ancient prophecy now lay in smoking fragments, a battlefield of stone and light. But amidst the wreckage, the vessel of the ancestors gleamed whole and humming softly like a heart reborn. The people of Alari gathered in silent awe. Where once they had watched humans with suspicion, now they knelt in reverence. The legends had spoken of an awakener, one who would come from the stars when darkness returned. None had imagined that savior would be human. Lieutenant Commander Nathan Felton stepped from the vessel, his uniform torn, his face marked by exhaustion, but his eyes alive with fire. Beside him, Neria, daughter of the High Priestess, walked in ceremonial grace, her once green robes torn and blood-streaked, yet radiant in the dawnlight. At the foot of the temple steps, High Priestess Kala awaited them, free of corruption, her eyes now soft and mortal again. She bowed deeply, something no Alari leader had ever done before. "You have done what none of us could," she said, voice trembling. "You have freed us from the Vex, and you have reminded us who we once were." Nathan looked around at the faces of the alien crowd, hopeful, fearful, reborn. "You reminded yourselves," he said quietly. "We just gave you a push." Dr. Harrington and the surviving members of the human expedition approached, still bruised but grinning. "Hell of a push," Commander Harrington said. "You just rewrote two civilizations' history in a single night." Nathan smiled faintly. "Guess I'm better at breaking things than babysitting." The joke drew laughter, soft, real, the kind that only comes after surviving the impossible. For the next few days, Alari became a world of rebuilding and revelation. The vessel's databanks, once sealed for 10 millennia, were opened under joint human-Alari supervision. The archives revealed everything: the history of the first Exodus, the truth of humanity's ancient empire, and how fragments of that civilization had evolved into the Alari after the fall of Earth's ancestors. "We are not two species," Neria told the gathered scholars. "We are two branches of the same tree, split by time, reunited by destiny." The revelation swept through both worlds like wildfire. Earth's fleets established contact. The Galactic Council issued emergency protocols to prepare for the possibility of Vex remnants elsewhere in the stars. But amidst all the political ripples, something more profound stirred hope. In the evenings when the twin suns sank behind the horizon, Nathan would sit in the temple gardens, the same place where he had first met Neria under moonlight. The air there was heavy with the scent of alien blossoms, petals that glowed faintly with bioluminescent veins. That night she joined him again. She no longer wore the robes of a priestess, but a sleek, diplomatic uniform, half Alari, half human in design. "The High Council has made their decision," she said. "They will establish a permanent alliance with Earth." Nathan nodded, though his chest tightened. "And they want you to lead it." Her smile was small, bittersweet. "They've asked me to serve as ambassador, to live among your people, to learn, to teach, to build what comes next. So you'll be leaving." "Not alone," she said, her amber eyes gleaming. "They also approved a joint command structure for the vessel." "They'll need a pilot." Nathan chuckled. "Guess I know a guy." Neria stepped closer, her fingers brushing the scar on his cheek. "You are more than a pilot now. You are the bridge between worlds, the living proof that the ancestors' dream didn't die." He took her hand. "Dreams don't die. They just need someone stubborn enough to chase them again." Her laughter was soft, warm, the kind that made the stars feel closer. They stood there for a long time in silence, watching the horizon turn from gold to violet. The vessel rested in the courtyard below its hull, shimmering with quiet light, as if listening. "Do you ever think about what's next?" Neria asked. "Every second," Nathan said. "The Queen may be gone, but the Vex hive still exists out there. And if we're really descendants of the same ancestors, it's our fight now, both of ours." She nodded, her expression serene. "Then we fight together." He smiled. "That's what humans do best. And apparently what Alari were born for." A soft hum filled the air, the vessel awakening again, responding to their proximity. Light rippled across its surface, forming alien glyphs that translated into simple words on the human scanners nearby. "Unity protocol initiated." Neria looked at Nathan, her lips curving into a slow smile. "It seems even the ancestors approve." They boarded the vessel once more, not as savior and priestess, but as partners, equals bonded by destiny and choice. As they ascended into the sky, the people of Alari watched the twin suns framing their ascent in a blaze of gold. "Where are we going?" Neria asked. "Wherever the next mystery takes us," Nathan replied, a hint of that reckless grin returning. "There's a whole galaxy out there that thinks humans can't do the impossible. Time to prove them wrong again." The engines flared and the ship rose higher, its wake scattering clouds like silver dust. From the ground, the vessel appeared as a streak of blue light crossing the heavens, a new constellation born in motion. High Priestess Kala watched from the steps below, tears glinting in her eyes. "The prophecy spoke of an awakener who would bridge light and shadow," she murmured. "It never said the bridge would carry both ways." In orbit, the vessel broke free of atmosphere, the stars bursting into view like a sea of diamonds. Neria looked out at them, endless, waiting, alive. "So this is what your people see when they look up," she whispered. Nathan grinned. "Nah, this is what we see when we look forward." He reached for her hand, their fingers intertwining as the vessel turned toward the unknown. Through their mental bond, emotion flowed freely: excitement, fear, wonder, love. "Neria," he said softly. "Yeah, whatever happens next, promise me one thing. Anything. When the stories are told, make sure they remember this part, the part where the legend began." Her smile was radiant, her voice almost a whisper. "Then let the legend of humanity and Alari begin anew." The stars ahead rippled as the vessel's engines engaged. Space-folded reality shimmered, and the ancient ship leapt into the void, leaving behind two sons. One prophecy fulfilled in the first chapter of a new era written in fire and starlight. As it vanished into the cosmos, the people below looked skyward and whispered a single name, the name of the man who touched a forgotten ship and reignited a civilization's soul. Nathan Felton, the human who awakened the stars. And somewhere deep within the vessel, beneath layers of ancient alloy and living light, a soft pulse echoed the dormant signature of humanity's first empire now reborn. A new story had begun.